class. So today we are going to start a new chapter as per the demand. This is a very interesting chapter. There are two parts of this chapter. First is the 100 versus 1 and the 100 versus part 2. So today we are going to complete this part 1. After that, in the next class we are going to study part 2. Okay, I'm going to start this chapter. The 100 Verses Part 1 by L. Bor Esther. Before you read, people have a tendency to judge others. How do we judge the people around us? By their money, wealth, and possessions? Or is there something of more enduring value to look for in a person? This story is a sensitive account of how a poor young girl is judged by her classmates. Vanda Petronsky is a main character in this story. She is a young Polish girl. Polish means the people who belong to Poland. So this story is a sensitive account of how a poor young girl is judged by her classmates. Vanda Petronsky is a young Polish girl who goes to school with other American children in an American town. These other children see Vanda as different in many ways. Can you guess how they treat her? So this chapter, as I told you, is based on the judging ability of the people. We always judge others on the basis of their money, on the basis of their education, or on the basis of the color, on the basis of different factors. So here a girl who belongs to a Poland, a Polish girl, Vanda Petronsky, she goes to a school along with the American students in an American town, and how the other children treat her. This is a very sensitive story. Can you guess how they treat her? Read the following information. Now this is a crucial information related to this chapter. The Polish American community in the United States. The first Polish immigrants arrived in America in 1608, but the largest wave of Polish immigration occurred in the early 20th century, when more than 1 million Poles migrated to United States. The Polish states did not exist at that time, and the immigrants were identified according to the country of origin rather than to ethnicity. They were identified as Russian Poles, German Poles, and Australian Poles. One of the most notable Polish American communities is in Chicago and its suburbs. So Chicago is sometimes called the second largest Polish city in the world, next only to Warsaw, the capital of Poland. Polish Americans were sometimes discriminated against the United States, as were the Irish, Italians, and Jews. According to United States 2000 census, 667,414 Americans, 6,67,414 Americans of age 5 years and older reported Polish as the language spoken at home, which is about 1.4% of the people who speak languages other than English, or 0.25% of the US population. So it is rightly said that how Vanda Petronsky was treated in the American school by the other American students. Good evening, all of you. So here the story begins. Today, Monday, Vanda Petronsky was out in her seat, but nobody, not even Peggy and Madeline. Peggy and Madeline is a name of students. The girls who started all the fun noticed her absence. Usually, Vanda sat in the seat next to the last seat, in the last row in room 13. She sat in the corner of the room where the rough boys here means the boys who treated Vanda in a very ruthless manner, who did not make good marks, sat. The corner of the room where there was most scuffling of feet. Scuffling means dragging, noisy feet. Most roars of laughter than anything funny was said, and most mud and dirt on the floor. So that day on Monday, Vanda was absent in the class. And Peggy and Madeline, these are the two girls who started bullying that girl, teenager Vanda. Vanda did not sit there because she was rough and noisy. On the contrary, she was very quiet and rarely said anything at all. And nobody had ever heard her laugh out loud. Sometimes she twisted her mouth into crooked some sort of smile, but that was all. So she was a very shy girl. Okay, she never participated in classroom activities, and because of that personality, she was mistreated by the other students in the class. Nobody knew exactly why Vanda sat in that seat, unless it was because she came all the way from Boggins Heights. Boggins Heights is the name of a place, and her feet were usually caked with dry mud. But no one really thought much about Venda Petrovsky. Once she sat in the corner of the room. The time when they thought about Venda was outside of school hours, at noon time when they were coming back to school, or in the morning early before school began, when groups of two or three or even more would be talking and laughing on their way to the schoolyard. So every student in that school used to mistreat her, used to bully her. Okay, because she was Polish. Polish means the citizen belonging to Poland. Then sometimes they waited for Vanda to have fun with her. The next day, Tuesday, Vanda was not in school either, and nobody noticed her absence again. But on Wednesday, Peggy and Maddie, who sat down front with other children who got good marks and who didn't track in a whole lot of mud, did notice that Vanda wasn't there. Peggy was the most popular girl in the school. She was pretty, she had many pretty clothes, and her hair was curly. Maddie was her closest friend. The reason Peggy and Maddie noticed Vanda's absence was because Vanda had made them late to school. So on Monday they did not notice the absence of Vanda. On Tuesday also, when she was absent, nobody noticed. But on Wednesday, these two girls noticed. And Peggy, who was the most popular girl in the school because she had a variety of dresses and she was pretty as well with long and curly hair. They had waited and waited for Vanda to have some fun with her, and she just hadn't come. They often waited for Vanda Petrovsky to have fun with her. So these are the two girls who started bullying that girl, Vanda. Vanda Petrovsky. Most of the children in room 13 didn't have names like that. They had names easy to say like Thomas, Smith or Ellen. There was one boy named Bounce. Well, Bounce and people thought that was funny, but not funny in the same way that Petrovsky was. So she has a very different name, very awkward name, and because of her name, every child of the school started bullying her. Vanda didn't have any friends. She came to school alone and went home alone. She always wore a faded blue dress that didn't hang right. Didn't hang right means didn't fit properly. It was clean, but it looked as though it had never been ironed properly. She didn't have any friends, but a lot of girls talked to her. Sometimes they surrounded her in the schoolyard as she stood watching the little girls play hopscotch on the swan. On the worn hard ground. Hopscotch is a game in which children hop into and over squares marked on the ground. So have you people understood this much? This is the introduction about the story, that how Vanda was mistreated by the girls and the other students in the school. As she did not have any friends, she was very quiet and shy kind of a girl. If you people have understood, please acknowledge me by showing thumbs up. Okay. Vanda, Peggy would say in a most courteous manner, as though she were talking to Miss Mason. Vanda, she would say, giving one of her friends as nudge. Nudge means gentle push. Tell us, how many dresses did you say you had hanging up in your closet? And Vanda replied, 100. So meanwhile, that was a conversation that started up. The girls asked her that how many dresses she had, and she bluntly said 100 dresses. 100? Exclaimed all the little girls incredulously. Incredulously means showing unwillingness to believe. And the little ones would stop playing hopscotch and listen. Yeah, 100, all lined up, said Vanda. Then her thin lips drew together in silence. What are they like? All silk, I bet, said Peggy. Yeah, all silk, all colors. Velvet too? Yeah, velvet too. 100 dresses. Vanda would repeat stolidly. Stolidly means without showing any feeling. All lined up in my closet. Then they would let her go, and then before she had gone very far, They couldn't help bursting into shrieks and peals of laughter. No, nobody believed that Vanda had 100 dresses, velvet, all colored dresses, okay, different style of dresses, and nobody believed. When she left that place and gone very far, all alone, then all the friends, all the students of that school started laughing at her. 100 dresses. Obviously, the 100 dress Vanda had was the blue one she wore every day. So why did she say she had 100? What a story. How many shoes did you say you had? 60 pairs, all lined up in my closet. Cries of exaggerated politeness greeted this, all alike. Exaggerated means किसी चीज़ को बढ़ा चढ़ा के बताना. Oh no, every pair is different, all colors, all lined up. Peggy, who had thought of this game, and Maddie, her inseparable friend, were always the last to leave. Finally, Wanda would move up the street, her eyes dull and her mouth closed, hitching her left shoulder every now and then in the funny way she had finished the walk to school alone. Peggy was not really cruel, but she protected small children from bullies, and she cried for hours if she saw an animal mistreated. If anybody, so Peggy was a little bit sensitive girl who could save the small children from bullying and who would cry for hours when she saw any animal being mistreated. If anybody had said to her, "Don't you think that is a cruel way to treat Vanda?" she would have been very surprised. Cruel? Why did the girl say she had 100 dresses? Anybody could tell that that was a lie. Why did she want to lie? And she wasn't just an ordinary person. Else, why did she have a name like that? Anyway, they never made her cry. As for Maddie, this business of asking Vanda every day how many dresses and how many hats. Okay, so every day they were teasing Vanda on asking the same question, that how many dresses you have, how many pairs of shoes you have, how many hats you have, and the Vanda would become very frustrated. But she could not do anything, as we know that she was very shy girl. After that it says, and how many this and that she had was bothering her. Maddie was poor herself. She usually wore somebody's hand-me-down clothes. Thank goodness she didn't live up on boggin sites or have a funny name. Hand-me-down means old clothes handed down by someone else. Sometimes when Peggy was asking Vanda those questions in that mocking polite voice, Maddie felt embarrassed and studied the marbles in the palm of her hand, rolling them around and saying nothing herself. Not that she felt sorry for Vanda exactly. She would never have paid any attention to Vanda if Peggy hadn't invented the dress game. But suppose Peggy and all the others started in on her next. She wasn't as poor as Vanda, perhaps, but she was poor. Of course, she would have more sense than to say she had 100 dresses. Still, she would not like for them to begin on her. She wished Peggy would stop teasing Vanda Petrosky. Okay, Maddie was also very poor. She had only a few clothes, but whenever this question was being asked by Peggy to Vanda, Maddie also becomes really sad. But she was a very good friend of Peggy, that's why she did not retaliate. Today, even though they had been late to school, Maddie was glad she had not had to make fun of Vanda. She worked her arithmetic problems absent-mindedly. 8 times 8. Let's see. She wished she had the nerve to write Peggy a note, because she knew she never would have the courage to speak right out to Peggy, to say, "Hey Peg, let's stop asking Vanda how many dresses she has." Okay, so it shows what? Maddie was also becoming frustrated day by day. Why? Because the Peggy, who was a very rich girl, who had a variety of dresses, she was asking the same questions again and again to Vanda, and because of that, Maddie also got frustrated, and she also tried several times to stop Peggy, but she did not have guts. Suddenly she paused and shuddered. She pictured herself in the schoolyard, a new target for Peggy and the girls. Peggy might ask her where she got the dress that she had on. The Maddie would have to say it was on Peggy's old ones that Maddie's mother had tried to disguise with new trimming so no one in room 13 would recognize it. Have you people understood this much? Please acknowledge. If only Peggy would decide on her accord to stop having fun with Venda. Oh well, Maddie ran her hand through her short blonde hair as though to push the uncomfortable thoughts away. Okay, so somehow Maddie was also trying hard to make the Peggy stop questioning Vanda about the dresses because it irritated her as well. What difference did it make? Slowly, Maddie tore into bits the notes she had started. She was Peggy's best friend, and Peggy was the best liked girl in the whole room. Whole room here means whole school. Peggy could not possibly do anything that was really wrong, she thought. As for Vanda, she was just some girl who lived up on the Boggins heights and stood alone in the schoolyard. She scarcely ever said anything to anybody. The only time she talked was in the schoolyard about 100 dresses. Okay, before that, Vanda did not have any kind of a conversation in the school with anyone. But that 100 dresses story made her fun. The only time she had talked was in the middle school about the 100 dresses. Maddie remembered her telling about one of her dresses, pale blue with colored trimmings, and she remembered another that was brilliant jungle green with a red sash. Sash means you'd look like a Christmas tree in that, the girls had said in the pretended admiration. Pretended means not real. Thinking about Vanda and her 100 dresses all lined up in the closet. Maddie began to wonder who was going to win the drawing and coloring contest. For girls, this contest consisted of designing dresses, and for boys, of designing motorboats. Okay, probably Peggy wouldn't win the girls' medal. Peggy drew better than anyone else in the room. At least that's what everybody thought. So Peggy was very good in drawing. So once a competition held in the school in which everybody has to draw. For the girls, there was a drawing competition. They have to design a cloth, and for the boys, they have to make motorboats, design motorboats. And Peggy was very good at arts. That everybody thought. At least that's what everybody thought. She could copy a picture in a magazine or some film star's head so that she could almost she could almost tell who it was. Oh, Maddie was sure Peggy would win. Well, tomorrow the teacher was going to announce the winners. They would know. The next day it was drizzling. Drizzling मतलब हल्की हल्की बारिश, light rain. The next day it was drizzling. Maddie and Peggy hurried to school under Peggy's umbrella. Naturally, on a day like this, they didn't wait for Vanda Petronsky on the corner of Oliver Street. The street that far, far away under the railroad tracks and up the hill led to Boggins Heights. Anyway, they weren't taking chances on being late today because today was important. It was a result declaration day. So they did not wait for Vanda. Do you think Miss Mason will announce the winners today? Asked Peggy. Oh, I hope so. The minute we get in, said Maddie. Of course you will win, Peg. Hope so, said Peggy eagerly. The minute they entered the classroom, they stopped short and gasped. There were drawings all over the room, on every ledge and windowsill, dazzling colors and brilliant, lavish designs, all drawn on great sheets of wrapping papers. The classroom was filled with drawings of different varieties of designs of dresses, all drawn on great sheets of wrapping papers. There must have been 100 of them, all lined up. Now, seeing that, Peggy and Maddie became very surprised. They must be drawings for the contest. They were. Everybody stopped and whistled or murmured admiringly. As soon as the class had assembled, Miss Mason announced the winners. Jack Beggles had won for the boys, she said, and his design for an outboard motor was an exhibition in the room 12, along with the sketches by all the other boys. As for the girls, she said, although just one or two sketches were submitted by most, one girl in room 13 should be proud of her. This one girl actually drew 100 designs, all different and all beautiful. In the opinion of the judges, any one of the drawing is worthy of winning the prize. And I'm very happy to say that Wenda Petrowski is the winner of the girls' medal. Now everybody was, shocked. Nobody ever believed that Wenda would win that competition. And when Wenda declared the story of 100 dresses, then only these two girls and the other students believed that Wenda actually had 100 dresses. That's why she was able to make 100 designs, all different and all beautiful. So she became the winner. Unfortunately, Wenda has been absent from school for some days and is not here to receive the applause that is due to her. Let us hope she will be back tomorrow. Now class, you may file around the room quietly and look at her exquisite drawing. The children burst into applause, and even the boys were glad to have a chance to stamp on the floor, but their fingers in their mouths and whistles, though they were not interested in dresses. Look, Peg, whispered Maddie. There's that blue one she told us about. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, said Peggy. And here's that green one, boy, and I thought I could draw. So everybody started appreciating, everybody started enjoying and mesmerizing the beautiful designs that was created by Wenda. And for so many days Wenda was not coming to school. She was absent. I hope that you liked the story. Please respond. So this was the part 1 of 100 dresses. Part 2 of 100 dresses will be continuing in the next class. That what actually will come to know in part 2, that what actually happened to Wenda, why she was not coming to school. And the later part of the chapter tells us a very sensitive incident that happened in the life of Wenda, that she left the school just because of bullying. So if you have any doubt, if you want to raise any question, you can ask. This chapter is totally based on bullying the innocent ones. And on the other side, there is one more picture that has been highlighted, that a person, the girl who was being bullied by the other students, was very much skillful and talented in making the different designs of beautiful dresses. If anyone would like to ask anything, you're most welcome. Part 2 we will discuss in the next class. Okay, then if you have no doubt, it's good. But after this class, whenever you get time, you just read this part 1 once again. And if you find any problem, any difficulty in understanding any of the paragraph or any word or any sentence, okay, or any question, you can ask me through Wisdom Group. Central idea of part 1. Okay, the central idea of part 1 is that the writer has highlighted the major issue of bullying the innocent ones. That how in the school the innocent ones are being bullied till date. So through this story, the central idea is that one should stop bullying others on the basis of different factors. If a person is black, white, tall, short, fat, thin, it doesn't matter. So the writer has brought a very major issue of bullying the innocent ones. And on the other side, on the contrary, he has also shown that a person who is talented, highly skillful, doesn't need to react on the negative things. His talents, और इसका एक मेन proverb ये है, action speaks louder than words. This is the main central idea, the theme of the chapter. Okay, I repeat, the theme of the chapter is action speaks louder than the words. Wanda Petrosky did not retaliate when she was being bullied by everyone, but her actions, that she made beautiful designs of different dresses, made her popular in the school. Now have you understood Shlok and others? Now does anyone have a doubt still? Okay, till then take care. Thank you so much. God bless you. अगर कोई डाउट होता है तो विजडम ग्रुप के थ्रू पूछ लेना आप लोग. Thank you so much all of you. Goodbye. God bless you.